everybody. My name is Cassandra Goldie. I'm Chief Executive Officer of the Australian Council of Social Service, which is the national body for the community and social services sector, and also a voice against poverty and inequality in Australia. And this morning I'm joined by Mr. Shane Brown, who is the CEO of Weave Youth and Community Services, based here locally in Redfern. This morning we are launching the largest national survey of community workers right around the country who are working daily with people experiencing poverty, experiencing disadvantage, and we have asked them what they are hearing on the ground. This survey is the early alert. It's the way in which governments can hear the true reality of the lives of people, individuals and families as we go into the Christmas period. Disturbingly for us, there are some very critical findings that we believe cannot be ignored. We have asked our services on the ground how they are going in responding to the needs of people in the community. Disturbingly, just 1/5, just 20% of services have reported that they are currently able to meet the demand of those people who are in desperate need of assistance. Particularly disturbing is that we now have legal services, legal aid, community legal centres who are only able to meet just 4% of the demand, and for accommodation services, housing, homelessness services, supported accommodation, just 22% of those services are able to respond to the needs of people who are walking in their door. We also asked our community workers who have the best knowledge, the best expertise about what needs to be done, what were their priorities. If governments could come together today and to have a comprehensive response to meet the needs of the community, what are the priorities? Importantly for us, overwhelmingly, the big message out of this report was housing affordability. Housing and homelessness services, the fact that so many individuals and families are really struggling to make ends meet because of the costs of housing and the lack of supply, the fact that we do not have enough accommodation that is affordable for people. This is clearly absolutely vital. It's vital for family security, it's vital for children being able to have stability, it's vital for people being able to be in employment. I think the other really important thing is we've had a lot of speculation and a lot of stereotyping about young people in Australia, that young people are lazy, that somehow if they're not in employment it's because they're not trying hard enough. What community workers told us in this report is that the thing that young people want is a job. They want a job opportunity. We have to grapple as a country with the fact that there are not enough jobs out there. Overall, we've got just one job available for 5 people generally who are out there looking for paid work. So for young people who don't have the experience, they've worked hard to get education behind them, they've worked hard to try and deal with personal issues that they may be facing, they are wanting a job. And so this is the challenge for the government, not to get harder on them, not to get tougher on them. It's time to get tough on the real challenges that this country faces. Of course, for us, what this says is that we have done this test of what is going on in the community before the federal government has managed to implement some of the harshest measures that it's proposing to do in the federal budget. The cuts to income support for young people, the cuts to income support for single parent households. Single parents reported in this report that they have experienced the most levels of increased stress over the last 12 months because they are not able to meet the needs of their families. The government must be prepared to recognise the overwhelming rejection of the tone, the approach of their federal budget is because this is real. Whilst most people in Australia are enjoying good living standards, there is a core group of people who simply do not have enough. With 2.5 million people in Australia living below the poverty line, this is the reality. The other part that is very disturbing for us is that this reflects a very vital safety net right around the community, vital local services working with young people, with single parents, with people with disability, with people who cannot find housing. Right now they're saying that just 20% of them can respond to the needs of the community, and we have yet to see the very savage cuts that the federal government is proposing to implement into these services. On the one hand, we know that the government is proposing to bring in $500 million in cuts to services for those services for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander individuals and communities. This is an extraordinary and unprecedented cut in this area of service delivery that will hit people right around the country and here in Redfern. We also know that the federal government is determined to pursue, we believe, over $250 million cuts in community services generally. We have yet to see the results of that. As of today, we understand the federal government is proposing to make announcements about what's happening with these cuts in the lead up to Christmas. Now, this is an extraordinary lack of thought, of responsibility from a federal government that knows for community services around the country and for individuals and families, going into the Christmas period is the hardest, it's the toughest time. There is enormous pressure on individuals and families to be able to celebrate the festive season, to be able to provide even small presents for their children, to be able to put something special on the table at Christmas time. This is a cultural norm for us, and if you're not able to do that, then you are seriously excluded from even just the basic joys of coming into a holiday season. We urge the federal government to rethink its federal budget. We have put proposals on the table for where the government can find savings, where the government can address tax reform in a way that ensures we have a sustainable revenue base for the future. We also urge the federal government to be very careful in the way that it touches community services. There have been cuts right across the board in so many areas already, in Aboriginal community legal services, in legal aid generally, in youth services. We know that already those cuts so far have had a significant impact, and with the cuts that are now foreshadowed, potentially announced in the lead up to Christmas, this would be an extraordinary stepping away from responsibility by the federal government at